Welcome to episode 203 of Timm Talk, the podcast about the DC animated universe, co-created by Bruce Timm. I'm Chris Lord.
And I'm Cameron Dexter.
And I'm awake.
You're awake. We're awake.
We're awake.
And we're not apes.
And we're not apes. In what I would call a rather unprecedented situation here, this is our normal record time early on a Sunday morning, Cameron literally had to wake me up to get this podcast going.
Yeah.
So whatever reason, my body apparently needed almost 11 hours of sleep. We suspect it might be the really, really shitty movie we watched last night.
Yes. Do we want to talk about it now, or are we going to save it for plugs?
Oh, I guess we will save it for plugs, I suppose. I think this might be more of an anti-plug.
Oh, it is this movie was so bad. Just to give a bar.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is so bad. My level of what a bad movie is has gone down. It's like every movie I thought was a bad movie is now an okay movie.
So wait, oh my God, this is not good, because you had a pretty high, you love movies that are really, really bad.
What it now
which means all those bad movies have gone up in your estimation.
Yes, what it takes to now be a 1 out of 5 is you have to put in so much work to be 1 out of 5 now. Everything that was there before is now automatically a 2 out of 5.
I gotta look and see if on my my film tracking app here, can I rate something 0 stars? Is that possible? Because if so, no, I can't.
Okay.
It's down to that minimum of 1 star, which if I recall, the other movies that have such rating are like the theatrical cut of Justice League and the second Fantastic Beasts film.
But that's the thing, is in comparison, those movies aren't that bad anymore.
Ooh, wait. Okay, so here's, if I may, real quick, it's a tangent. Other movies that have a 1 star rating. 1998's The Avengers, so the one based off of the British TV show.
Yes, I have not seen that.
That is particularly bad. As I mentioned, Justice League, Fantastic Beasts 2, this horror film called The Void that I saw years ago that's just bizarre. The recent Mulan I have as a 1 star film.
Oh, yeah.
I have X-Men Origins Wolverine as a 1 star film.
That's an interesting spot, because I've rewatched that movie in the past couple of years, and it's one of those where it's so bad it's fun to watch now.
Oh, see, I did like a whole rewatch of pretty much all the X-Men stuff recently, and so this is a recent review. This would have been like the last 6 months. And then Mission Impossible 2 also has a 1 star.
Oh, I still have not watched 2.
Rating. I generally, how I do this is like, if I like something, it's 3. If I don't like it, but it's like fine, it's 2. And if I like actively hated it, it's 1.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is all kind of fair. These are terrible films.
Yeah.
To your point, the movie that we have not yet mentioned that we will declare, keep everyone waiting, in Bat Plugs is worse than all of these.
Oh my gosh, yes.
By a substantial margin, but yeah, the rating can go no lower. But yeah, I think the movie was so bad it literally fried my brain and forced me to sleep in so goddamn late.
Yeah. Your brain had to rewire itself to understand how any of this got approved by anyone in Hollywood.
Oh my God. There
are 2 A-list actors in this movie.
Yeah, it was particularly painful. But yeah, so we'll get to that in plugs. But in the meantime,
now that I've got 2 great episodes to watch.
I'm up and great.
I thought they were great.
Ooh, great might be a little bit generous. I think they're fine, all things considered. But yeah, we do have a couple Just League episodes to get into. So shall we just go ahead and jump on in here?
Let's jump into it.
Okay. I'm totally not gonna make up the synopsis as we go.
No, you got it.
I luckily watched these yesterday. Didn't have time to do anything else this morning. So we first up have Flash and Substance, our first real Flash focused episode, I'd say, in the entire universe so far, where it's like it's really his episode. It's all about him.
Yeah, because the only other one I would put as a contender is the Mr. Miracle episode. But again, that is just Flash. It's just the main character, but it's not his story.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So in this one, the Flash Museum is about to be opened in Central City.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of the Flash's rogues who are mad at always losing out to him, in particular Mirror Master, Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, and the Trickster, decide they're all going to take a shot at stopping him before the museum opens to try and embarrass and frustrate him and get back at him for all the times that he's stopped and captured them. And it almost happens, but luckily Batman, in a rare moment of being a good guy, agrees to attend the dedication of the ceremony and brings along with him Orion, and they're able to join with the Flash to stop his rogues from killing him / doing bad things.
Yes.
But unfortunately not from wrecking the museum, which mostly gets destroyed.
Yeah, that's fine though.
Okay, so I thought this was fine. You thought it was great.
I loved this episode.
I mean, we have talked about this a lot, specifically the moment where Flash sits down with the Trickster at the bar, and we really see his like compassion for him in particular. What about this made you feel that it was great?
So we've had 2 full series that focus on Batman and Superman respectively. And those are pretty much the only 2 characters we've seen interact with their town, their city being a character in itself. Gotham is his own character. Metropolis is his own character. This is the time we kind of get to see Central City be its own thing. And with that, Batman has this aura of fear around Gotham. That's what he's best known for.
All he knows how to do.
Exactly. Clearly in this episode. Superman is above the people. When he's Clark, he's part of the people. When he's Superman, he's above the people. Mm-hmm. When we see Flash with the Central City civilians, he is a hero who is part of the people. And that's a trait we've never seen before, really.
Okay.
It's so fun to see how he interacts with just the other people. Everyone knows him. You know, he's like, this is the closest we've had to like a friendly neighborhood character. This is like the opening sequence of Homecoming, where he's going around and just kind of like saying hi to all the people in the neighborhood.
He knows all their names. He knows what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, and even to the point where like as the episode continues, he knows the villains are all there. He knows the villain bar.
Yeah,
and he's like, yeah, you know, they unwind there. I'm not going to ruin their fun. And even when they get there, you know, the scene that we've been talking about for 5 years now of Batman wants to go Batman on the villains, and Flash has to, you know, like, no, that's not how we do it here. This is my city. We're going to do it my way.
Yeah.
And the way we're going to do it is, you know, he's going to finish his drink, and then we're going to talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there is something interesting going on here where I think, doesn't Orion even point out, like, you kind of play the fool a little bit?
Yeah, the last line from Orion is talking about, like, he's not a comedian because he's dumb or because he doesn't care. He's a comedian because, you know, it's easier to fake a smile when everything's bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, someone has to be smiling. You play the fool to hide the warrior's pain.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's an interesting idea. And actually, there was a similar line in a comic that I'll plug. It plugs at the end there. A Spider-Man comic where his villain kind of points out the same thing. It's like, I respect that you're able to make light of such serious work. Is kind of the idea. And I think there's something similar to what the Flash does, is that, yeah, he does take this stuff seriously, but never overly seriously, or like it never feels like a burden to him. It all does feel like a joy. He's genuinely loves to do what he does. He loves helping people. He loves that. I mean, he does get quite a bit of attention out of this as well. But he really is having fun.
Yeah, and
through all of it.
And I think another big comparison we can make is when you smile at the end of a job, the job doesn't seem as hard. And especially the people around you, it doesn't seem like you're trying as hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so when you have these, because there's a lot of like mimicked villains between Batman and Flash. Mm-hmm. Captain Cold has Mr. Freeze. Trickster has Joker, obviously. Boomerang has Deadshot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like when you see those characters or just hear their names in Gotham, they instill so much fear immediately. Mm-hmm. Mainly because when you see Batman deal with them, you see him struggle, you see him having to, you know, fight, and when he's in this like kind of state, when he needs to scare them, you know, like they can scare the people.
Yeah. But
when Flash does it, the names are a little goofier. That does help.
Yes.
But like, you know, they don't instill the same fear when you're like, oh, Captain Cold's coming. It's like that just sounds like a funny way to say like allergies.
Right. I mean, there's even a really funny moment where the four of them, the four rogues, are at that bar, and Mirror Master refers to them as the hardest men in town, and the waitress comes up to order, and they get it's like an Arnold Palmer, a cherry Coke, a
milkshake,
a glass of milk or something like that. But yeah, it's just like they're all
his ulcers are acting up again.
His ulcers are acting up. You're. I mean, I wasn't cold on this episode by any stretch, and that is definitely not a pun intended off of Captain Cold. Like I think I watched it and I liked it. Maybe if anything, I thought both of these were going to be great, and the second episode was a slight letdown for me. So maybe that just colored my whole perspective. But I do agree with you. This is like a really fantastic, super fun episode, and I think it's the first episode yet of this season that works when it's being a little more kind of light and playful. I really haven't enjoyed most of the episodes up till now. I've just found them a little bit silly and superfluous just because that last season was so particularly good.
Yeah.
And this feels like it could have been a one-off episode in season 1 or season 2. And I think season 3 overall has a little more levity, and so it plays particularly well here. But it doesn't feel dumb, which I think a lot of the season so far has for me.
I wonder, so like, because you say it could have been in season 1. I fully agree, because I think them teaming up would have been interesting in season 1. But since the theme of season 3 is already teaming up,
yeah,
like I would have loved just a line in there of like, maybe the villains bar is a little more empty than usual, and it's the 4 villains that weren't invited to
I see. Yeah.
to the Evil League. And it's like, what if we just make our own? It's like, yeah, we can stop the Flash on our own.
Because it is kind of fun, because basically more or less every major Flash villain makes an appearance here somewhere, either as an actual active character or someone in the bar or someone in the museum. So
much like Scooby-Doo 2.
Much like Scooby-Doo 2, the superior Scooby-Doo film.
The fine Scooby-Doo film.
Yeah. So like the list I have going on here is let's see. So the 4 we already mentioned: Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, Mirror Master, and the Trickster. I'm just seeing if there's anyone else. No, okay, looks like that's all of the villains that have any sort of speaking roles. But we also see Abracadabra, Dr. Alchemy and Mr. Element, who I saw a little piece of trivia that apparently in some comics continuity, that is one person with a split personality.
That's great.
And not all of them, but some of them. So it's kind of fun that they would be like there in the same space together.
Mm-hmm.
Fiddler, Pied Piper, Thinker. Sorry, what? The Top.
The who?
The Top.
Ah,
this is. I am reading this fresh, which is I'm like, who is this character? Okay, I have never heard of this villain, but I guess I think he's part of. Okay, he is included in the Legion of Doom, but he's still a Flash villain. And then Turtle Man and Weather Wizard,
yes,
are all there as well. So it was like it's pretty much his entire rogues gallery, which is pretty fun, and like it is sort of fun to have almost like a catch-up episode on the Flash. To your point, we've had 2 whole series dedicated to Bruce Wayne's Batman, a whole series dedicated to Superman, and as we've talked about in previous episodes, random characters have these sort of pseudo embargoes on them, including Batman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. So I think the space they were open to play in was getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah, and they basically kicked out Manhunter last week.
That's true. Yeah, Manhunter's no longer in the series as of right now.
Yeah.
And we've done quite a bit of GL's backstory, as we have with Hawkgirl, and some of her backstory is ongoing. So they really only have so many places to pull from at this point.
Yes.
So you're right. I do really, really enjoy this episode. I think maybe I built it up in my head a little bit because of that moment with the Trickster. But that it is worth noting that is a really fantastic moment. So, for the context there being that they've discovered that the 4 villains are teaming up together. They're trying to figure out where they're going to hit next. And so they go to the bar. The Flash knows where everyone is. And, Batman basically starts off.
So the villains decide they're going to work together, but they don't like the Trickster's ideas. So they kind of boot Trickster from the group.
Yeah, they just leave him behind because his ideas are absolutely insane. Like,
yeah, very Wile E. Coyote.
very, very much so. Yeah, it just needs some barrels of oil and a chainsaw or something like that.
Yeah,
It's just
he's gonna run into a wall.
yeah, and it's worth noting that in this, Trickster is voiced by Mark Hamill, who, of course, obviously plays the Joker. It's fair to say, as you pointed out, the Batman Flash comics parallel, but also he played him in live action in the '90s series.
Yes,
and then played him again in live action in the
2014 Flash.
Yes, in the CW TV show, and then I think he continues to voice him as well in like Justice League Action. Because I think we've talked about this before, that there's an episode of Justice League Action where, isn't it, Trickster and Joker kidnap Mark Hamill?
Yes,
it is pretty much an entire episode of Mark Hamill just voicing all the characters, which is fantastic. And in this version, the Trickster is more Mark Hamill's natural voice. Like, this is what he normally just kind of like sounds like day to day, slightly heightened.
There's a little Joker you can hear in there,
a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic, and so he's at the bar, and Batman goes to interrogate him, and he's not really getting much. Then he tees up Orion to come in and like really do the damage, which is, it's worth noting as an aside, the really fun dynamic they established here of, you have the Flash, who's like one of the, if not the most lighthearted character in the entire league, and it's Batman who agrees to go to the opening, which is very sweet on his part, because at this point Batman clearly does not care about being out in the middle of daylight, and has softened up a lot before he goes real hard. By the time of the Batman Beyond continuity.
Yes.
But that they also needed someone even more serious than Batman to come along as well, and that was Orion. Because honestly, there's probably only a handful of characters in the league who are more serious than Batman, and Orion might be the most serious.
Well, I think it's so interesting comparing Orion to Flash. Because think about the lives they've grown up in.
Yeah.
Orion is a god who has been fighting the force of evil, the personification of evil his entire life.
Yeah.
Who's lived on in New Genesis and is this paradise. And then the first time, the moment that I really enjoyed was when they go to Flash's house or his apartment, and Orion's like, "This is how you live."
Yeah,
because he's used to having basically a whole planet to do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
and Flash is in a studio apartment with a treadmill.
Yes, and one of his few remaining standees from when he sold like the light speed bars or whatever. So yeah, it's a really fun kind of three-way dynamic they've established here with like these two characters, and it's just so interesting to see Batman positioned as the midpoint in terms of seriousness, which is such a rarity.
Yeah, and then again, like Orion, there's never been a point where he's been able to talk his way out of a situation.
Yeah,
he's always had to fight, or someone's always had to fight, and so to see one of the 7 most incredible heroes of Earth, talk to a villain sitting down. Yeah. Like that, you can't comprehend that for him. He can't comprehend that.
It's so outside of his worldview and his mental map and to your point, like his historical experience. Because it is a really touching moment, because the Trickster's at the bar and Orion's about ready to beat the shit out of him to get information, a la how he and Batman handle things. The Flash like, no, slow down. He sits down at the bar and he just talks to him as a person. It's like, okay, clearly you're off your meds again. He's like, well, I don't want to take them. It's like, hey, you got to take them. They make you feel better. You're wearing the costume again. He doesn't realize that he's wearing the costume. Like, the Flash does recognize that this is a person who is struggling with mental illness, and unfortunately there are consequences of that, but the Flash is going to go out of his way to at least try and help him first rather than just criminalize him.
Yeah.
And we see, especially in this continuity, Batman do things like that. I mean, I think we've talked before about how this Batman also does those sort of things, just in a less direct way. I mean, sometimes directly he's tried to help Harley as Batman, but as Bruce Wayne, he's made overtures to help people.
That's the problem. That's the big difference. Is the villains don't know it's Batman helping them.
Yes,
they just
exactly
think it's just this billionaire who's like, yeah, I guess I'll like show some pity to this guy.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas the Flash does it in his persona. Like he is also trying to be a hero to the villains as well, and not just the people around him.
Yeah.
And in the same way that we've seen him have that personal, direct, one-on-one, I know your name interaction with the whole city, he does that with his villains and well. And it's a really nice moment where he basically just tells Trickster like, okay, it's like, you got to go turn yourself in. It's like, okay, will do, buddy.
And there's a small moment that like I wouldn't have caught this if I wasn't in therapy.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's a very brief thing that Flash does, and then at the start of the conversation between the two of them, the Trickster asks the Flash if he wants to play darts, and the Flash doesn't really respond to that and kind of continues like, hey, you're not in the right headspace right now.
Yeah.
But then he sends the question back to Trickster as a way of like, I'm not doing what you want to do, but do you want to like, or not? It's how would you say it?
Does he more or less say like, hey, if you go, I'll come visit you and we'll play darts?
Yeah, he's inviting Trickster to do something with him
Yeah.
instead of, and that makes him feel wanted.
Yeah. It is a really, really sweet moment, and it is really good character highlight. And it's interesting, beyond the dynamic of like the very lighthearted, the mid-series, and the various areas. We don't necessarily see like a follow through on this, but it's cool to see the idea of seeing Batman and Orion watching this happen in front of them, and like kind of maybe shifting their worldview a little bit. And I think this episode really highlights how much Batman does trust and respect the Flash, which is, we've talked about that in the past, that it hasn't always been the case. And I think that at this point, the Flash has really proven himself. I think the events of Starcross really help put him on that path. But the fact that Batman just says, okay, what time? Yes, I'll go. I'll come support you.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems very out of character, but you kind of feel like, I think the Flash is the only one he would do that for. Now, to be fair, the Flash is the only one who's going to have his own museum open to him. But like,
Superman might.
Well, I mean, you could see that happening with Superman, or like a statue being dedicated to him or something like that. But I don't think Batman would show up to that.
No. Unless Wonder Woman dragged him.
Yes, that's true. If she
wouldn't go by himself.
He wouldn't go by himself. Even as we see in the next episode, he won't even go get burgers with them, right?
Yeah.
So, but something about the Flash, I think Batman recognizes that not only is Wally really, really good at what he does, and that what he does is very different from what Batman does, but he respects him for, and I wouldn't go so far as to say he's jealous, but I think Batman might recognize Flash is able to do something he's not, which is, the Flash's persona is not built around fear the way Batman's is.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe he's able to be a little more effective at that rehabilitation element. And I think Batman recognizes that, appreciates it, and also recognizes that other people maybe don't appreciate it, as someone who's always been a little bit cynical about him in the past. And so that's why he's willing to go to his museum opening.
And I think there's an interesting parallel. They're very different cities, but having Central City versus Gotham, Central City is kind of the idealized version of Gotham.
Yeah. It's what happens when it's not a fucking mess.
Yeah. And, Metropolis is very different. It's kind of like a half futuristic city, but it's also a god watching over it, not a human.
Yeah, exactly. It's
and,
not just
even
one
though
man.
Flash has powers, he doesn't have money.
That's true. What's your superpower? I'm rich.
Mm-hmm. And there's also that brief shot we get of Wally, who now has Barry's job as a forensic scientist.
Yeah.
Showing that he's also good at, like, being Wally, which is also very fun.
Yeah, he's really good at being Wally, just the way that Flash knows everyone, Wally knows everyone. It is interesting. There's, like, some kind of, like, amalgamations of pieces in here, right? So Wally has Barry's job as a forensic scientist. It's a little, and I'm sure the Watchtower Database guys have done a deep dive on like the Flash continuity, and if I can track down the video, I'll include it in the notes below. But like we do get little hints of other things. We see Jay Garrick's helmet. We see Kid Flash's costume. So it does kind of raise questions a little bit of what is the broader continuity here. Like,
yeah, and doesn't he even mention like an uncle in this episode?
He does mention uncle
who would be
Barry. Exactly. So there's some confusion there a little bit as to like what is going on here, given that this is Wally. We know definitively it's Wally, but he seems to have a lot of kind of the Barry elements. But the thought I had when he's at his job is he's obviously good at it, and he just reminds his boss like, hey, I asked that half day off. He's like, oh yeah, you got it, which then makes you think, is he always asking for time off? Like, is he like the best forensic scientist who's never there because he has to do all this other shit all the time? Like every time we've seen the Flash in Justice League, he's on some sort of mission, half of which takes him like to the other side of the galaxy, and we presume lasts for days.
Right.
So does he just take lots of time off? How does that work? Having a full-time 9 to 5 while also doing this.
I mean, he moves at super speed. We don't know how long it takes him to actually do his work.
Right.
It could be one of those situations where, you know, it's the ideal corporate job where you get your work done in 5 minutes and you just kind of sit there for 6 hours. And you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's done. Here you go.
But he's the only one who has like an actual clock in 9 to 5 job. Because obviously Bruce can do whatever the fuck he wants
Right.
all the time, and he does.
I mean, Clark can like go out on like reporting jobs.
He's employed, but he's a
Yeah.
reporter. So, you know, I don't think people expect him to like show up at the office at 9 a.m. and leave at, you know, 5, 6 p.m. I think the idea is that he can kind of come and go as he pleases. I just, for me, it's such a weird idea that this entire time, like whenever they, you know, get back from, you know, Oa, the Flash, like, okay, this has been great, gotta go. Has to race in and go to work.
Shit.
I'll be there. I mean, that's like a whole thing with Barry, is like he's famously late to things all the time, right? Even though he can run at super speed. But I guess that piece kind of is brought in here as well. So, I mean, it's a funny idea that he has this 9 to 5 job. I also love the reporter who's like absolutely in love with him. And apparently that character is Linda Park, who in the comics is married to Wally West.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, she's also known as Linda Park West, which is kind of fun to just see her like totally crushing on, fangirling over Wally and his just absolute obliviousness. She literally hands him her number on a piece of paper and he just signs it and hands it back to her.
Yeah.
Which, there's an added layer of humor given that the Flash tends to be a little bit of a corn dog, which is of a nice way of saying he can be a little.
And he's a womanizer.
A little bit of like an unsuccessful one at that.
Yeah.
But that, you know, he actually does have someone who really likes him. He doesn't even notice because he's just so caught up in being the Flash all the time. But I mean, like, it's super fun. Like, at the very end, it's a big fight inside of the Flash Museum. They've taken all the mirrors, but the reporter, she opens up her compacts, and Mirror Master's able to jump in with Captain Boomerang and Captain Cold, and they kind of lay siege to the whole place, and the Flash gets stuck inside the mirror dimension. And Batman's able to get him out by doing this fantastic trick shot with a flare. Like, bounces off of 3 different things, then falls through one of them.
Deadshot would be so proud.
He would be very, very proud. So the Flash is able to like figure out where the spot is. And I love that when the flare goes through and it lands on the ground and they look over and then Wally sees it and there's a little Batman emblem on the actual flare canister. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that was put there to show like that's how he's able to make the connection, that that's Batman telling him which one to go through. But also, of course there would be.
I mean, but can anyone else access the mirror dimension? Like, would there be any other thing that could get through?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think he's the only person that utilized that, which is also kind of an interesting idea, that it's this one villain has access to this incredibly powerful infinite dimension, and it's just this one guy has access to it. I could very well be wrong. We often are.
I'm also curious, like, the origins of the mirror dimension, not just in DC, but just like in stories altogether. Because I've seen it a couple times in American stories, but I've also seen it. I feel like it's a big horror element.
Yeah.
I've recently seen it in like one of the anime that I watched. There's a whole fight in a mirror dimension because they don't want to like cause damage to the real dimension.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that, and then Train, Infinity Train. There's a whole like the whole second season is the mirror version of this girl escapes the mirror dimension, and it's her trying to exist in the real world.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry for the spoiler for people who haven't watched Infinity Train.
Oh, I haven't either.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'll watch it at some point because I've heard it's really good. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of an ongoing idea. I mean, I don't know where it came from. I'm sure there's an origin out there somewhere. I presume it just came from that idea of like looking through a mirror and seeing like a whole world in reverse. Like, oh, what does that look like?
Yeah, that person isn't me.
Yeah, which is interesting because the way this one's visualized, it's not like the whole world is just mirrored on the other side. It's just literally a series of mirrors and reflections with all these like winding paths interconnecting between them. No, I mean, it's kind of a cool look overall. But, you know, of course, at the end of the day, they're able to stop all the bad guys, and the museum's like mostly destroyed. But, you know, the Flash is like, hey, the bad guys got stopped and no one got hurt. Sounds like a pretty damn good day to me.
Yeah.
It's just, and I will say, this episode, it's really heartwarming. It really is. It's just it just kind of washes positivity over you at the end of the day. It's really nice.
Okay, so here's a question, because I see a lot of parallels between this episode and the one aspect of epilogue that we like. If this came out before epilogue,
the Ace scene.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think we refer to that without getting into spoilers. So yeah, the Ace scene and epilogue. Yeah.
If this episode came out before that, would that have made that scene less impactful? Because like story, canonically, this does happen before the Ace scene,
right? And to what we were referring to earlier, one could even infer that maybe this moment has an effect on Bruce, and that's why he chooses to do what he does there.
Right.
It's a retcon, obviously, since they aired in the opposite order. I don't. That's actually a very good question. I don't know if it would diminish it from any sort of way.
I think it would change the meaning of it a little bit.
Maybe it might feel like they're just rehashing something else that's been done before.
I wouldn't see it as that. I would see it as Batman learning from the Flash.
Well, right, and I think yes, it would add that, and I think we can add that as a retcon. But in terms of like, would it have had less impact on me if we saw it the other way around? Maybe, just because that was the first time we really have seen any of the heroes try to do that, to really like sit down one-on-one with their villains. And the fact that it's Batman who's doing it is really substantial, because notoriously he just beats up people with mental illness all the time.
Yep.
So maybe it wouldn't have had quite the impact. But it is a fun idea to think that Bruce's perspective maybe shifts a little bit because of his time with Wally.
Mm-hmm.
Which still becomes interesting, because I feel like we don't ever really get an answer as to why Bruce becomes as just awful and jaded as he does by the time it gets to Batman Beyond. I mean, there's inferences to be pulled, and again, I don't know the timeline. I know the Watchtower database has figured this out, but theoretically, it may be the events of the flashback events of Return of the Joker occur after this, and that might be a lot of what pushes Bruce into a darker place. Plus he makes reference to like Selina. We assume that maybe something else happened with her down the line as to why she's like gone from his life entirely. But yeah, it is interesting, because this is, at this point in Justice League, this is the closest Batman is to, say, the 1960s Batman.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And I don't mean that in terms of him being campy, but if you will, how Adam West always referred to himself as the Bright Knight, like a version of Batman that was more optimistic and sincere and heartfelt.
Just walking around in the daytime.
Yeah, walking around in the daytime and trying to do the right thing for everyone all the time, including his villains. I think this is the closest we've ever gotten, is this point in the Justice League, in the DCAU continuity. And to be fair, it does make sense. But yeah, it's a good idea. I don't know. Do you think it would have changed your perspective on it if it had been the other way around?
I think a little bit. I think if it was the other way around, we would have brought this scene up of like, this is where Batman learned to be compassionate.
That makes sense. Yeah, we would have brought it up during that episode. So out of curiosity, I had to look up and see, not knowing this character existed before, who is the top?
Oh yes, please.
In comics.
Well, I'm gonna guess. If I can guess, he is a spinning top.
Okay, his abilities are increased intelligence, mental powers, use of gimmicked tops.
Yep.
Ability to spin at incredible speeds and endures vertigo and others. Oh my, that is quite a lot. His name is Roscoe Dillon. He's a
weird name.
A small-time crook who turns his childhood obsession with tops into a criminal persona.
I'm not surprised by any of that.
Look, okay, wait. He was created in 1961.
I was gonna guess 60s.
I think it's fair to say the modern connotations of the word were not on the minds of the writers necessarily when they wrote this, though there is kind of a long running history of like gay creatives just subtly throwing in things that the hetero community does not recognize.
Yes.
I guess he does appear in Justly the Flashpoint Paradox, which is cool. Oh, he's in the Flash. Oh, but it's a female version of the character. Okay, which makes it maybe slightly less hilarious.
Yeah.
I just can't get over this. This is maybe my absolutely new favorite thing in comics. Is
Could you have someone else to dress up as for your next convention? Who are you on the top? No, but who are you dressed as?
I have to do this now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If only we had recorded this episode a few weeks ago, I could have made this work in time for LA Comic-Con, which is literally ongoing as we're recording this. But okay. You heard it here, folks. I'm making a promise that at some upcoming convention in the next few years, I will go to a convention dressed as the top.
There you go.
I shouldn't find this as funny as I do. But
No, you got to find the little joys. I'm not going to take it from you.
Oh my god. Oh, that was fantastic.
The outfit that's a lot of outfit.
That is a lot. It absolutely is. And maybe fittingly it would leave very little to the imagination. So
yeah, for people who don't want to Google it, it is striped bright yellow and bright green.
Yeah, horizontal stripes.
Yes, it feels very like rugby uniform.
It does. Yeah,
like European football.
Yeah, and then he has kind of like it's almost like the Superman crest, but without the angled pieces on the top of it, as you will. It's just sort of like flat, so it looks like a spinning top. But oh my god, yeah, that is just a goddamn delight.
Oh yeah, look at that pose.
Ooh, hello.
Yeah, they know what they were doing. They fully knew what they were doing. Yes. Do you have anything else for this episode?
I don't. It can get no better than this. How about you?
I liked how Flash refers to his villains as Manure Master and Captain Koala.
Oh, that's good.
That was it. That was my last note.
All right. So then moving on to our next episode, Dead Reckoning. So this primarily follows the ghost hero Deadman.
Boston Brand.
Who
Our Boston boy,
who's now out at Nanda Parbat, and he's basically wondering why he hasn't yet passed on, because he was able to solve his own murder with the help of Batman about a year ago. And the master of a collection of monks at Ananda Parbat tells him, your goal was not to solve your own murder, it was to solve mine. And at that point, bum, bum, bum. And at that point, Tala, who's been rescued from Amir, apropos of our Mirror Master conversation, by Gorilla Grodd, opens up a portal to Nanda Parbat and brings along with her a whole army of folks from the Legion of Doom. So what we got, Lex Luthor, Rampage, who I guess is that also Mongal?
I guess. Yeah, they refer to her as Rampage.
She looks like Mongal.
Yeah, but she's not yellow.
Well, but she's the same. It's the same color scheme as
Mongol.
Well, so remember in the Suicide Squad there was a female Mongol.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's Mongal, right?
Yeah, but in the comics, Mongal exists, and she's the same color as Mongol.
Right. I thought that's who this character was.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's Rampage. They call her Rampage.
Maybe it's also Mongal. I don't know. I'm not going to bother to look it up right now.
She didn't seem strong enough to be Mongal. Because I feel like Mongal would be on a similar level to Bizarro.
Okay, I guess in Rampage, yeah, she's a person who's just like imbued with powers because she's exposed to some radiation or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, she looks like, DC's She-Hulk.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Essentially. So, so it's like I said, Lex, Tala, Rampage, Atomic Skull, Devil Ray, and Bizarro, plus a whole army of Devil Ray's soldiers show up, and they're there to steal. Like, it's very ambiguously how it's worded, but it's basically like the heart of the temple or something like that. It's like this orb that seems to contain like all of like sort of like the psychic energy of the space, but it's like the heart of Nanda Parbat.
Mm-hmm.
They steal that because the evil plan that Grodd has been alluding to so far this season, and we're about halfway in at this point now, is he has had Lex build some sort of like amplifier device. So they go to Gorilla City of Grodd's home city, Gorilla City in Africa. And basically they put the heart of Nanda Parbat plus inside this machine, they put Grodd's telepathic helmet from the Brave and the Bold on top of that, and they put it inside the like force field illusion projector that covers the city. It's basically the same technology that Wakanda has in the MCU of like it casts a shadow so it looks like nothing's there, plus it's a little force field. And they're using that as an amplifier to rewrite the DNA of all humans.
Well, so what he told Lex was this was going to be a mind control device to control the entire world.
Right. But instead, he's going to turn the entire planet into apes.
Yes. This episode went from like a 3 to a 6 immediately. 6 out of 5.
I love that you went up for you, went very much down for me at that point. Oh, man.
Because I remembered there was an episode where they turned to apes. I couldn't remember when it happened. And it wasn't until Grodd is like, oh, but that wasn't actually my plan, that it clicked with me. I'm like, oh my God, it's this episode.
It's this. And it's just like
so good.
And I too remember, like, there's an ape episode, but I couldn't remember, like you, I couldn't remember what it was. And I really like Deadman as a character. And I think actually my first exposure to him would have been like the Gotham Adventure comic that tells that story of Batman helping solve his murder. I had that like actual single issue comic way back in the day. I'm sure I have it still somewhere stashed away in a box. But I think that was pretty much my first intro to him. And then, you know, obviously he appears in various places. Like he appears fleetingly in Kingdom Come, one of my all-time favorite comics. And I knew he appeared here and some other places. But I like him a lot as a character. He's just interesting. Like this haunting spirit that's left on Earth who can go inhabit other people's bodies to try and right wrongs and solve murders or whatever. You know, so in this one, he's primarily living in Superman's body. And he recruits Batman and Wonder Woman to help him stop all the villains who attacked Nanda Parbat, which of course leads him to Gorilla City. But like, I love him as a character, and I love that idea, and I love this sort of super high spectacle, not a full-on murder mystery, but there's an element to it a little bit. And then it just dips into, we're going to turn everyone into apes. And to be fair, it's what, 2 minutes?
Yes.
Maybe max. But even that 2 minutes.
They all get to punch something as an ape. And then they're like, okay, we've burned our budget. Right. Now we got to turn them back.
And look, and there's some funny little things in there. Like when Lex turns into an ape, he still has no hair.
Yes, that was incredible. No matter what, Lex must always be bald.
Which, it's funny, but it just kind of ruined it a little bit for me. And we don't actually see that effect happen across the rest of the world, right?
No, it's just the kind of the 3 people in the room and then the 3 heroes outside.
Well, and if we're going to get real pedantic, which we must here, I think it's interesting because I'm not sure the exact wording he used, but he basically said like every man, woman, and child's going to get their DNA written to become an ape. So we're like, well, is it only humans? Presumably not, because Superman also turns into an ape.
It's true.
The big question that I have that this episode does not explore is we know that at this point, Martian Manhunter is hiding as a human on Earth somewhere. So for the 5 minutes when every human being on the planet, presumably up in the Watchtower as well, maybe not. We don't know. That's not addressed.
Right, but I mean, there's some people that are in like the Hall of Justice area.
Exactly, Metro Tower. So my question is, was there a moment when everyone turned into an ape except for John Jones, who's just standing there going like, "Oh shit, what has happened?"
I think probably what happened was he turned into an ape for a second, but you know he turned himself back into a human because he can just shapeshift again.
Well, right.
But then he saw everyone else was still an ape and had to like turn back into an ape.
Yeah, because he's trying to be undercover. He's going incognito. So did he do it? I don't know. But it's so stupid.
Because I thought the question you were going to ask was, is it all species?
Oh, okay.
Are there a bunch of fish that just drowned because they turned into apes and lost their gills for a second?
I think you know, because they love to like have their designations on these things. Like it's all humans, but it also usually includes Superman. So it's like, oh, or it's all mammals or something like that.
It's all humanoids.
Yeah, I'm assuming he didn't turn apes into apes. Maybe he did. I don't know.
They wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know. So I think maybe it was meant to just affect humans. I mean, this is dumb comic book logic where like you can do these sort of things and somehow it's specified enough to know who it's affecting and who it's not.
Yeah.
Asinine. But like, I was really on board with this episode kind of up till that point, and then I was just like,
I loved it. I loved it, and then
I hate this.
The shot right after that kind of brought it back down for me. Where we see Devil Ray kill. Devil Ray's the one that does the final shot that quote unquote kills the master.
Yeah.
And so Boston Brand is kind of on this vengeance run. Whenever he sees Devil Ray, you know, he takes over Wonder Woman's body, and what that shot showed me was like you see how much Wonder Woman and Superman are holding back.
Yeah.
Because when Boston Brand takes over, one punch cracks his helmet. He's Devil Ray's helmet. He's like he's injured. You hear him injured.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, like this isn't how the Master would want me to get his revenge.
Yeah.
But then the last shot, Devil Ray comes back. He's about to shoot Wonder Woman, takes over Batman's body, and grabs a gun on the ground or a laser on the ground, shoots Manta Ray, Devil Ray. He takes over. Deadman takes over Batman's body because Deadman sees Devil Ray and everyone else misses it. Batman leaps onto the ground, picks up Lex Luthor's fallen That's
gun.
who it was, yes.
Shoots Devil Ray, who then falls into an open circuit panel and gets electrocuted.
To death.
To death.
Yes. Confirmed death.
Confirmed dead. And then, like, Deadman is horrified because he accidentally killed somebody. And then also Batman is angry because he inadvertently killed someone with a gun.
Yeah.
Worst thing that Batman could ever possibly do. And so then Deadman is basically punished to stay on Earth because the scales have been tipped, according to Ramakrishna, who's this kind of the deity
of Nanda Parbat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who is not a god of order or a god of chaos. Just another god.
I'm glad you know these things because I sure shit don't. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like you and I have a very much opposite track there because like I love this episode until it does the ape thing, and then I hate it, and then I love it when it has that moment just because it is such a big deal, especially for Batman. Like it's something that's a pain that he's gonna have to live with, even though it wasn't him. But especially for a guy who's so obsessed with control, the idea that like he lost control of his body and he killed someone with a gun would weigh on him a lot. And we don't necessarily see the fallout of that, but we know that there will be internal fallout for it. So I love that moment, even if it's a heavy moment.
I think the only reason I don't like it is because we don't see that repercussion ever come back.
Yeah.
Except for Boston being stuck on Earth longer.
Maybe now we know why he becomes such a hard ass. Why he becomes so miserable.
This was the turning point.
I mean, it is interesting. Like these episodes, generally speaking, are a lot lighter, like we were just talking about.
But also, sorry to jump back. Don't we see in Batman Beyond where like the start of him turning kind of grizzled is he realizes he's too old to be Batman and he pulls a gun on someone?
It's what makes him retire. Yeah, it's that he's too old. He starts to have like a heart attack or stroke, or he has like heart failure in the middle of a rescue, and the only way he can save himself is to have to pull a gun on one of the goons. And he doesn't actually shoot him, but he realizes like he can't do this anymore. He is so compromised to having to have a pull a gun, and that's what makes him retire. So yeah, I mean, and this might be like, you know, an allusion to that to some degree, but yeah, it's part of what makes him a dick. But like, these episodes, generally speaking, this season has been a lot lighter. That being said, this episode has an insane body count.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
they do subtract some deaths because everyone in Nanda Parbat is resurrected.
Well, yes, but okay, so...
Except for the guy at the very beginning who was like the bodyguard of Nanda Parbat.
Exactly. So we kind of jumped around a little bit here, but like jump back to the beginning. So out at Nanda Parbat, the Legion shows up and there's... a guy blocking the entrance. He looks just like the villain from the Mulan animated series.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Just like him.
It's not Shere Khan, but it's another SK.
Yeah. I'll leave it to you to look that up because you'll be frustrated by not knowing the answer.
I'm gonna look it up.
But he's blocking the entrance, and they just kill him. Like his devil ray shoots him full of tridents. And I think the differentiator here is between someone dying and not dying in this continuity is, do we see the actual thing? Shan Yu, thank you. Mm-hmm. We see the thing where they would die. Like the fact that we just see Devil Ray shoot the tridents and then we don't see the body, to me tells me he died, because they couldn't show him die on screen.
Right.
So they kill him. They go into the temple and they have to face all of these monks who are, trained martial artists and have some sort of extra spiritual energy. I don't really know that much about Nanda Parbat. I mean, Bruce talks about how he, the master was one of the people who trained him in martial arts, and there's kind of a long running history. I don't remember all of it. And again, I literally just woke up, so I didn't look it up.
What is because I always get this one confused with the Marvel ones. Where does Doctor Strange train?
Oh, he trains
Shangri-La?
No.
Is that where Iron Fist trains?
I don't know. They're all vague because they're written by white creatives in like the 60s and 70s.
They're all iterations of Shangri-La.
Yeah, they're all the same thing.
Which is the Journey to the West story.
Exactly. I do... it's totally blanking on me where Doctor Strange goes.
Because I thought that's also Nanda Parbat. But when I Googled it, it's just a DC thing.
I think it's just a DC thing. Yeah. It's got a very similar name, though, which is why I'm having a hard time remembering it. But they go in, so the Legion has to fight all these monks to get to the heart of Nanda Parbat.
Kamar-Taj.
Kamar-Taj, that's
Doctor
right.
Strange.
See, that's why it's kind of close. It's similarly vague. And so as they're like fighting the way through, a lot of monks die. Like specifically, I will admit, I do love this. Lex knows how to get Bizarro to do things because he knows how to talk to him in like the negative speak. It's like, oh, you hate me, don't you? It's like, yes. Okay, well then go kill these people because you hate me so much. It's like, oh, right, I will do that. But like at one point he unleashes his heat vision on a bunch of monks who clearly die. Like there is a body count prior to them extracting the heart, which then pulls, I think we'll just call it, for the lack of a better word, the souls out of all of the monks and back into this orb.
Yeah.
And they're presumably dead, but they're all those souls are returned at the end when the heart is returned, or when the heart is freed. But there's still a number of monks that died.
Yes.
I
think they kind of make a point. Also, the Iron Fist City was Kunlun.
Thank you. Again,
yeah,
they're all similar.
All, very, very close to each other. Because the Master makes a point at the end, because he does die, quote unquote, die before they take the orb.
Yeah.
But I think everyone there is immortal.
Oh, so maybe they all come back to life?
Yeah, because he wouldn't, because his soul wasn't taken. He was already kind of dead.
He came back nonetheless.
Yeah, and he makes a point of saying, like, karma doesn't take lives from Kamar-Taj or something weird along those lines, which kind of insinuates that, like, they won't die unless it is meant for them to die.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that does make sense. So, yeah. Okay, so I think you're right. I think maybe actually the body count is not as bad as I thought it was. But
we don't know about the bodyguard out front.
We don't know about him.
We don't know about Shere Khan.
Yeah,
not Shere Khan. Shan Yu.
But it did just throw me a little bit how many bodies there were in this, and especially because, like I said, the tone of this has been really light. Even in my notes, I have with the Gorilla City turn everyone to apes thing. So stupid, but kind of in the tone of this season. Like this season has really been embracing what's the weirdest stuff from comics we can possibly pull and make an episode out of. And turning everyone into a gorilla is definitely one of them at the end of the day. So it does kind of make sense, even if it's really, really dumb. I don't know. I guess for me, it's just like, there was such a drastic tone shift when they did the ape thing, because this episode had been a little bit darker up to this point.
I just feel like this episode has so much. Like, it's a Boston Brand story, and then it's an ape story.
Yeah, it's like it's Boston Brand, and like he's kind of the A plot. Well, and I guess it's not really the B plot necessarily, because it's Gorilla Grodd, so he's the villainous plot.
Mm-hmm.
But like there is so much happening in this episode. Like they go from Nanda Parbat to Gorilla City, and it's like this whole big crazy thing, and we got Ramakrishna in there. There's a lot of new lore
Yeah.
and new characters they incorporate all into here. Okay. It's a funny joke that Gorilla Grodd's ultimate goal is to turn everyone into apes.
Yes. I can't cut that. I will refuse to cut that.
Do you think, though, making that choice undercuts him as a credible villain?
What I think he could have...
Do you think it's in line with the character to have him do that?
No.
Okay.
What I think he should have done instead was say, like, he should have been the one building the mind control device and have some line of, like, I can't, like, the human mind is too much. Like, on a mass scale, the human mind is too much for me to control the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
But ape minds are simpler. And so, like, he had to turn them into apes because that was the only way he can control them.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because then Lex can still be like, I could have done it. Because I think if like Grodd wasn't telling him stuff because like it was almost a superiority thing, what Lex has been saying the whole time, and Lex be like, I could have done the human one, but you just wouldn't let me in on the plan ever.
Yeah.
Then there's more reason for like, yeah, you're dumb. You don't know what you're doing. I can do this. Like,
I agree with you. I think that would have made it make a little bit more sense. It's an amusing reveal, but yeah, I think it just feels a little bit ridiculous. And for someone who's supposed to be a genius, who, like, you know, Lex and Grodd could spend their entire lifetime having a pissing contest to see who the two of them is smarter. But also, we could believe that either one of them is supposed to be like the smartest person on the planet.
Yeah, but then, you know, Ultra Humanite is like over in the corner playing chess.
That's true.
With himself six times over.
There's a lot
like,
of...
I'll let you guys remember who is actually the smartest one here.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really smart people, but it just felt a little bit dumb. But of course, Lex is just furious. Like, this was your grand plan all along?
Monkeys?
And so they're back at the Legion.
They're apes, Lex.
Yeah, apes, yes. They're back at the Legion of Doom headquarters, and Lex says, you know, I was planning to do this a long time ago, but this is stupid. He just pulls out a gun and shoots Grodd. And we do get an Andrea Moan out of him, so he's not dead.
Right.
But he's like, I'm taking over. Does anyone have a problem with that? And no one does.
Yes.
I'm sure they were all like quite upset when they just randomly turned into apes.
Well, because what they don't talk about is everyone's clothes ripped. Think of the dry cleaning bill everyone now has because of Grodd. Those outfits are skin tight.
I would hope that Grodd has included like costume services as part of his 25%, but knowing him, I doubt he does. I'm sure he's trying to save costs everywhere he possibly can.
I mean, he probably has a dry cleaning service inside the evil lair, but it costs.
Right? Yes.
It's one of those quarter machines.
Exactly. You still have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of, not only was the idea dumb, but the fact that as soon as they destroy the generator, like, it just negates the effect. Like, that thing was just going to have to run forever in order for the effect to stay was kind of stupid. Like, it just, you know, it felt like a really contrived point they had to just force into there that I didn't really care for.
So I have a few questions.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Grodd can use his teleporter to get inside Gorilla City.
Yes.
The League cannot.
Yes.
That is weird.
Question
mark.
I'm gonna assume that Grodd has a greater understanding of how that system works, considering that he used to live there. And for all I know, maybe he helped. I don't think this is ever established. Maybe he helped build it because he's so crazy smart. So I can understand where he would have insider knowledge that the League wouldn't in terms of how to break into the thing.
Okay, I will accept that.
Yes.
Question 2.
Yes.
Should this have been a 2-part episode?
Fuck you, Cameron. Absolutely not.
I want to see them be gorillas longer.
I don't. I think it's really, really dumb. I brought it up earlier. I'm curious how the rest of the world, the rest of the League, and in particular Martian Manhunter react to this. But all I need is like asides. I just need like a moment of everyone be like, what?
So if you remember the pilot episode of the Powerpuff Girls.
I've never seen the pilot episode.
It's good.
I've never really watched the Powerpuff Girls.
Craig McCracken he's very good at writing stories.
Right. I mean, I know everyone loves it. It was just like, it was a little after my time. Just that tiniest little bit after my time.
Well, the pilot episode is Mojo Jojo turns everyone into dogs.
It's fantastic.
Honestly,
the world would be a better place.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very cute. But it happens in the first 5 minutes of the episode. So the episode is them as dogs the whole time.
Okay.
And it's so cute. And it's them like having to, because they kind of lose their powers as dogs.
Yeah.
And so it's them just having to kind of outwit the smart monkey as puppies. And it's very cute.
See, that does sound very cute. That sounds very in line.
Yeah, and you see the whole city turned into dogs.
Yeah, that's
like you see them driving. The mayor still has his mustache as a dog.
I think I've seen that picture. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense in that universe, in that world and tone.
Yes.
It just feels a little stupid here.
Okay, question 3.
Uh-huh.
'Cause I knew your answer to question 2.
Yeah, obviously.
Would you rather have seen the other Boston Brand episode? Would you rather have seen him needing Bruce's help to clear his name?
I mean, it was a good comic.
And it's a great, because that's the episode we get in Brave and the Bold, which is where I was introduced to Deadman.
Yeah.
When Green Arrow and Batman help Brand figure out his murder.
Yeah. It was a fun comic, and it's all set in a circus. And I don't remember if it was the same circus as, I don't remember if it was Haley's. I can't remember if it was the same circus as Dick Grayson. I think it might have been.
I think it is.
I recall Nightwing was involved in all of it. But you know, I remember I really liked it as a comic. I don't know the history in terms of where the story genesis of those comics came from. I know Hilary J. Bader wrote a lot of them. I can't remember if she wrote that one or not. So I don't know if maybe that was a pitched idea that ultimately they decided to just do as a comic instead of as an episode. I would have liked to have seen that in the new Batman Adventures era. Maybe less so than seeing it here now, because especially at this point, we don't have access to the rest of the Batman family. I mean, yeah, I suppose I would have. I like Boston Brand a lot. I think Deadman's an interesting character. He's got a great look. It's a really cool look, cool power set. But I would have liked an episode that had him that also didn't involve 8 people.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that should be its own episode.
Yeah.
The 8 people episode.
And then maybe we don't have to have this one. Which, I mostly like it because I like Deadman. I'm like, you know, I get it. It's fine. But
Yeah, and like to fit it in line with the humor and lightheartedness of season 3 so far.
Yeah.
The way they do it in Brave and the Bold, the gimmick is no one believes each other when they're possessed by Boston Brand.
Right.
And I think that's fine. And it's, you know, it's undercut super quick. The second Superman's taken over, Batman immediately knows, like, oh, it's Boston. Hey.
Yeah.
And like that's such a fun gimmick to roll with, where it's Speedy talking to Green Arrow and, you know, Ollie being like, why do you now have a Boston accent?
Yeah, right. I did love George Newbern's like semi-Boston accent that he was doing there. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I also do love when he first takes over Superman up at the Watchtower. Because they had just been fixing something, and Superman's basically trying to convince Batman and Wonder Woman to both go get milkshakes with him.
Go get pie.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, the quote is, come on, Bruce, I know a burger place in Metropolis that has the best fries in the East Coast, and the milkshakes are so thick
Oh, it wasn't
that he gets taken over, and at that point, Deadman says, I need your help, and Wonder Woman's comment is, that's pretty thick. Again, just like... Susan Eisenberg continuing to be amazing and just so fantastic with like the dry lines thrown in there, but like that got a very, very genuine chuckle out of me.
Well, then I enjoyed that when they get to Gorilla City and Deadman finally leaves Superman's body, he finishes the sentence.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need a spoon. Why are we in Africa?
Why are we in Africa? Yeah. But I mean, I do kind of love that these, especially those 3, have been doing this for so long that this doesn't really slow them down when this sort of shit happens.
That was one thing I wanted to bring up was how once they're fighting, once they're in Gorilla City, you know, there's a handful of villains in there.
Yeah.
But they are so in sync with each other. They're so in routine.
Yeah.
That they plow through everything.
Right.
Without like nothing gets in their way. Nothing can stop this trio.
And there are some pretty big hitters amongst the team that they take out there. And it only really starts to slow down when Bizarro comes in the fight, because obviously Bizarro can go toe-to-toe with Superman. But even then, yeah, it's like the 3 of them are so good together that it does kind of highlight indirectly, you almost only need those 3.
Yeah.
Like, you can send those 3 into almost any situation, and they can handle it.
Perfectly.
Yeah. And because they do like they have such distinct skill sets, right? It's like Batman is the tactician and he doesn't have the power that Superman and Wonder Woman do, but like he can think through the plan so meticulously and orchestrate, and the trust is so built in there between them they almost don't even need to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Superman and Wonder Woman are kind of on par in terms of just how freaking powerful they are, but Wonder Woman also has the sensibility of a warrior.
Yes.
You know, and Superman doesn't. It's awesome. And the animation is great. Like the fight sequence in Gorilla City in particular is so good. It's just so fluid, and they really kind of hold on to shots for a long time just to really emphasize the almost like balletic nature of the fight.
Yeah,
the
and also just how fast they are.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, like, there's enough in here that makes me actually overall really quite enjoy this episode, despite the ape thing.
Yeah, I know.
But that one piece is one of the reasons why I liked it so much for what it was, because it's a great fight.
Mm-hmm.
And now Lex Luthor is in charge of Legion of Doom.
Yeah, mutiny.
Mutiny!
Always love a good mutiny.
Yeah, so he threw a coup and it worked. So now we'll just have to wait and see what Lex is going to be up to going forward. What his plan is going to be. Does it involve Brainiac? Probably.
Maybe.
But yeah, overall, some fun stuff in here.
Yes,
Some decent stuff.
They're making my short list.
Oh god, that'll be an interesting conversation when we get to it. All right, anything else to talk about here? Or do you want to move on?
I think we covered it all.
All right, so why don't we do our plugs and then wrap things out here? Cameron, what do you have to plug this week?
Do we want to start with the movie?
Oh fuck. Okay,
We
wait.
can be quick about it.
Yeah, okay, let's
But we
do
did
it.
tease it up. We gotta
That's true.
fulfill the tease.
We have to pay off the setup. All right, go ahead.
So we watched 1986's Babes in Toyland, starring Drew Barrymore and Keanu Reeves, which is a musical,
Sort of.
technically,
if not necessarily.
yes, about a girl who dies ? But doesn't.
Okay, here I got this. I got this.
It's Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I got this. Yeah. So this is I think the third version. There's also like one from the 30s.
Yeah, 1934,
like
1961. That's the one that everyone knows. That's the Disney one.
Okay.
Babes in Toyland.
So the idea here is that it's all set in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
'Cause they have a whole fucking song about
Two
Cincinnati.
songs about it.
Well, they have one song that
And they're
recurs. Yeah.
Yes.
About Cincinnati. And the idea is that Drew Barrymore plays this little girl who apparently has had to grow up too fast, even though the movie cut all of the references of why she had to grow up too fast.
Yes.
So she goes to see her sister at the toy store she works at on Christmas Eve, and a massive snowstorm is coming in, and the older sister's boss is this really like blatantly creepy, lecherous dude who's like constantly hitting on this 16-year-old girl.
Yes.
And the older sister basically quits because she's tired of this guy being such a prick. So they're getting a ride home from her not actual boyfriend, but like the guy she has a crush on.
Keanu Reeves.
Played by Keanu Reeves, who looks... I mean, Keanu Reeves always looks great. But like 1986 Keanu Reeves, like, hello. I should probably double check to make sure he's 18 at the time.
I was just about to double check that too.
But like peak teen heartthrob handsome Keanu Reeves. And then their other friend, Georgie, whatever.
The other guy.
The other guy. And so like the four of them are driving back in the snowstorm, and then they're driving back in Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he's 22. You're good.
I'm good. In his crappy Suzuki, which he incorrectly refers to as a Jeep.
You're going into so many unnecessary details here.
No, this is all important.
So much unnecessary.
This is all important. As they're driving along in the snowstorm, somehow like they hit a bump, and Drew Barrymore, who is sitting in the, I think supposed to be in the back seat, falls out of the back of the Suzuki on a sled.
There is, so yeah, it looks like it's the row seats where it's three, what a normal car looks like. But what we learn is there is no middle seat in this not Jeep.
Yeah.
But she's actually sitting on her sled.
She's sitting
that she didn't want for Christmas.
Yeah, she's sitting on the sled that somehow fits in the back of this Suzuki, which it would not fit.
Yeah.
It's a big sled. And so she slides out of the car down a hill and presumably hits her head on a tree, and then is transported into Toyland. And this is where it becomes very Wizard of Oz. But instead of all the characters in Wizard of Oz, it's just like all of like the folk tales you hear as a kid that I assume are like in the public domain.
Yes.
It's like Humpty Dumpty and Little Miss Muffet and the Woman in the Shoe.
Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill.
Sorry, not Jack and Jill. Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel. Jack Be Quick. all of this sort of shit.
Well, but here's you see them and they reference them once.
Once.
And then the only characters you see are horrible, like animal suit, like bad mascots for sports teams.
Yeah.
Including a lion that is literally wearing a football jersey.
Right. They all look like something out of the really shitty island of Dr. Moreau. Like there's a similar level of production quality happening here.
Yes.
And the whole story is basically like they have to stop and it's classic Wizard of Oz. All the characters in real life reprise different roles with the exact same names in Toyland. They're trying to stop like the guy who owned the toy store in the real world. He's like trying to take over Keanu Reeves' cookie company, and he's trying to marry his girl.
Well, it's his uncle. Keanu Reeves' uncle is in a marriage to Keanu Reeves' girlfriend, the older sister.
Right, like a forced marriage that they
Mary
stop.
Berry or whatever. That's not Mary.
Mary
Berry.
Contrary.
Mary Contrary, thank you.
Look,
who is being set up because their mom couldn't afford the rent on their shoe house.
Yes.
So she was setting up the marriage so she could take the uncle's money.
Yes. All of this is to say, like we said up top, this is one of the worst movies, if not the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. We were watching it specifically because we're going to go to a recording of How Did This Get Made, where they're going to cover this movie. We did not watch this for unprompted of our own accord.
Yes, and nor do we ever wish anyone to watch this.
No. No.
Under any means.
This is not a plug. This is a warning.
Yes.
Do not watch this movie. It is not... Like, it's not even worth it for, like, the bad movie entertainment factor. It's just flat out bad.
I think we just needed more alcohol.
That's true. We were pretty much sober when we watched it.
I was not.
You were not. I was. We watched this, and it was just like, it was so awful. It felt like it lasted 4 hours.
Yeah, so the version that's on Amazon is 90 minutes.
Yes.
And when we Googled it... This movie was originally 2.5 hours.
Yes. Which I can't.
So they cut a full hour out of the movie we watched.
And they probably should have kept some of the things that point out the plot.
No.
In favor of maybe cutting out some of the
they could have cut more, honestly.
The 10-minute long little go-kart chase that makes no sense. I'm at a loss for words as to how bad this is.
It changed us.
It put me into an 11-hour coma.
Yeah.
That Cameron had to wake me from this morning. So it's awful. Don't watch this. Do not watch this. Even if you are like a diehard How Did This Get Made fan and are going to go listen to that episode, I don't like watch the trailer. Honestly, you could watch the trailer and you'll get enough from that alone. You'll get the key pieces. You don't need to know
and
any
then
more
just read the plot synopsis on Wikipedia.
which is what we should have done because the plot synopsis actually revealed a lot more than the movie didn't. So
I am now very curious what the 1961 is. If it's
you
the
go
same
enjoy yourself.
story.
Yeah, because there's also an animated '97 version.
That's true
too. That looks maybe in the same studio that did Do All Dogs Go to Heaven because it looks kind of the same style.
Oh,
it doesn't matter. It looks bad.
That guy.
Yeah, sure. It's awful. Don't go watch it.
I agree.
But what are your actual plugs?
I have two actual
week?
plugs. It's been a minute since we've seen each other, so I've been speeding through everything that came out in theaters recently.
This is true. Yeah.
So I watched King Richard.
Oh, how was that?
My family. I really enjoyed it. My parents weren't as keen on it. It's definitely an Oscar bait movie, like through and through.
Well, 100%.
And Will get a nomination for this.
Yeah,
he's incredible.
I bet he is.
The movie. How do I phrase this? There's no conflict, which is also kind of fine because I
hate that.
It's a movie where like there is drama, but in the end, everything kind of works out for them every time.
Well, yeah, it's a story of Venus and Serena Williams. We know how successful they become.
Yeah, it focuses much more on Serena.
Okay.
And this may be dumb of me, but I told this to someone else, and they also had the same realization. I didn't know they're not twins.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Right? They always they're like 2 years apart.
Yeah.
Serena being the older one, I think. Yeah, I think Venus is the younger one. I think.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The story's about the dad, obviously.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I really like the movie. It's really good. It's just like a nice, warm sports movie.
Okay.
Where everything just works out every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really have any interest in seeing it. A biopic with a really incredible lead performance is not enough to make me want to go see something.
That's
So,
fair.
Yeah.
I would say I don't think it'll get nominated for Best Picture, but I think you should probably only go watch it if it's nominated for Best Picture.
Okay. Even then,
Yeah. Then my other plug is I've seen it twice now because it's so good and it's so lovely. I watched Encanto, which is the new Disney movie.
I've heard lovely things.
It's so beautiful.
Let me clarify. I have heard lovely things for people that aren't Cameron.
This is true.
Who loves all things Disney.
Yes.
The Disney shill that you are.
The shill.
The shill that you are.
Yes. No, because shill implies that I'm getting like there's a reason I'm plugging them.
I mean, to be fair, you do make money off of things that you make for Disney.
That is true.
So
that is
Disney
very
does
fair.
pay you to some degree.
Yes.
Directly or indirectly. So
Encanto it's so beautiful. And like when I started it the first time, the music is very different from kind of anything I've listened to.
Well, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda, correct?
It is,
yeah.
but it's not his normal style of music.
Mm-hmm.
It has a ton of Latin influence.
That's great.
Which is so cool. And I don't listen to a ton of Latin music.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of, I watched a quick video about him kind of explaining the influence of each song.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're so different from anything I've heard before.
That's cool.
And I'm now like addicted to the songs. They're
Mm-hmm.
so unique.
Yeah. A friend of ours / of the show, CJ, he was telling me about it this week. And the way he put it, it's like, if you ever felt like you were the like raised like a special kid, like you're the special one,
Yeah.
you will have a lot of emotional resonance with this.
Yes.
So
Yeah, as the only child.
yeah, you have that as the only child.
Mhm.
So
and the theme of the movie is just like, hey, you should probably go to therapy.
yeah,
And that's literally like every character is like, oh man, my life is so hard. It's like, hey, do you just want to like go to therapy? It's like,
let's go to therapy and talk about it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel better now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Everyone please go see it. I feel like no one is seeing it for some reason.
yeah,
And I don't know if it's like if Luca was too close and that was, or if people are waiting for it to drop on Disney Plus.
I think this is just purely off the top of my head. This is not based on any sort of like articles that I've read, anything like that. I think the problem we have now is that we've gotten really, really used to things being available to us at home, and
especially Disney things.
especially Disney things. And then like things are better but not great right now.
Yeah.
And so like there's like even I had this a little bit of like, is this worth me taking the time to go see something in theaters, and also like it's a very minimal risk, but I suppose from certain people they might see it as a higher risk. But there's like a risk element involved in like going into an enclosed space for
an extended period of time.
2.5 hours. We're getting the holidays. It's been a crazy year to begin with. Like I can understand why just like external timing outside of that movie itself has made it hard for people to want to go and like see something in a theater unless they really, really want to.
Yeah. And on top of that, like we just got bombarded over Thanksgiving weekend with movies.
Yeah, and
because King Richard came out, House of Gucci came out, Sing 2.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing it to Encanto, but they're both musicals.
Yeah.
Encanto all came out basically in the same week.
And I hate to say it, but I mean, this is the downside of the turn towards tight theatrical windows or limited theatrical windows and stuff going to streaming really quickly. It's like if you wait a month, you can rent it at home. It's like even over Thanksgiving, I watched No Time to Die for a third time because my parents were like, hey, we're gonna rent it. Do you want to watch it? I'm like, yeah, it's like $20 to rent, but I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna watch it again. I was planning on seeing it again in theaters anyways, so why not?
Yeah.
And like I think unless it's something super excited, like I'm now maybe gonna try and find time to go and see it in theaters, but this is one where I'm like, oh, I'll catch it when I catch it. Is the thing is I don't think there's that rush to go see something.
Yeah.
Plus maybe everyone's saving their in theater movie for Spider-Man.
That is true.
So
that is coming very soon.
Very soon.
And I still don't have a ticket.
Yeah, I know. Technically, I don't either. So
yeah.
But
those are my plugs. What have you been watching, listening, reading?
So I watched a Netflix movie that just came out on Friday called Single All the Way.
You did.
I did.
I've been hearing very good things about it.
So this is where I have to send a shout out to my friend Eric, who was a friend of mine from when we worked at the agency together. And he got a big group of us together to sit down and watch Single All the Way, which is like Netflix's gay rom-com Christmas movie.
And that's it. That's all I need to know.
Here's the thing.
Yes. What? Yeah.
I feel bad when I say that I didn't really like it.
No.
Because we get so little of this. Like every little thing we get, you kind of have to like stand behind because it needs support for us to get more better things down the line. Like what was the one with Kristen Stewart?
I was just about to look that up.
I liked that one.
I also liked that one.
I thought that was really
her and Mackenzie Davis.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute. It had a lot of heart. It was like, pretty funny at times. Dan Levy like came in and like sold us the movie. What I've come to I've said this a lot about Netflix movies, and don't get me wrong, I fucking love Netflix, and I think Netflix TV is oftentimes fucking amazing. Netflix movies often, I've now realized what they're trying to do is they're just trying to capitalize on the Hallmark Lifetime format of just putting in very, very minimal effort in order to put out something that they know a very specific audience will watch because they have that data as to who will watch it. It just feels like they didn't.
Happiest Season was the movie.
Happiest Season, I quite like. Look, it's cute. I think it's worth a watch. I just didn't think it was anything very special. Like, I didn't find it particularly funny. Jennifer Coolidge is in it as like the crazy aunt, and she steals the movie obviously because it's Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes.
I actually thought most of the best and funniest lines were from there's two nieces in it, and they have like actually the best lines in the whole thing all the way through. They're super funny. I don't remember their names. They were unknown actors. I didn't know them. Like, it's got Kathy Najimy, who obviously we all love from Hocus Pocus, and Barry Bostwick's in there. So like, it's like got a good supporting cast, but it's just really, really generic, and you can see things they cut as the movie is going on. Like, this is not a spoiler to say, but like, the whole concept is basically like a gay guy who works in marketing in LA was dating this guy. They break up right for the holidays. He brings his best friend / roommate along with him. And of course it's like, oh, should they be together? Shouldn't they, sort of thing. And while he's there, his mom, played by Kathy Najimy, sets him up on a blind date with her trainer, who's like the super gorgeous guy. And they're out in some little town in New Hampshire. So there's, not a lot of things to choose from, if you will, out there. Mm-hmm. But so he's on a date with this guy, and at one point, Jennifer Coolidge's character comes over and like spills a bunch of stuff on the guy's shirt, and you're like, okay, like we were making a drinking game out of it. Like, all right, everyone, like get ready, like we're gonna have a drink, we're gonna have like obvious gay baiting here. And then the scene where he clearly was supposed to take his shirt off was cut, and you're like, and I wasn't even complaining because we didn't get a chance to see him shirtless, which obviously I wanted to, but it was more just like, well, clearly you were teeing up something here, and you just let it fall. It's that level of minimal effort that's an example of just comes through of like the script wasn't fantastic. There's nothing really interesting about the performances or the directing or the editing or the design. It's just kind of fine.
Got it.
For what it is. I didn't find it particularly interesting or exciting in any sort of way. I didn't find the main character particularly compelling. But hey, you know what? It's great because it was a lovely reminder that even, semi-attractive, very average white gay guys can find love with much hotter men. So you know what? There's hope for me yet.
You still got a chance.
There's hope. So it was fine. It's, again, if you feel like you want to check it out, check it out. It's not an anti-plug by any means, but I'll just say like I was a little bit disappointed by the lack of effort in the filmmaking.
Did you ever watch Dash and Lily from last year?
No.
Okay.
I generally don't watch like the churned out holiday movies.
I enjoyed that one.
Who was that one again?
I think they're both kind of no names, unless it's Nate Wolf, which it may be.
Nat Wolf?
Nat Wolf, thank you.
I like Nat Wolf.
Yeah, it's a series. It's
okay, then I'm definitely not going to watch
episodes.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have no time for things that were clearly meant to be a movie that have been stretched out into a miniseries.
Well, it's based off a book.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's a book series that's written by the same people that wrote Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Okay.
And kind of those kind of music themed things.
Okay. Still, yeah,
It's cute.
I don't have time for things that have a definitive arc and should have been a movie, but they're like, well, we make more money, we'll get more eyeballs on it if we make it a series.
Okay, that's fair. I like it. I'm probably gonna rewatch it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. It's fine. And then the other thing is, for the first time in decades, or possibly maybe ever, I went and bought in a comic book store trade comics.
Oh,
for the first time.
Which store did you go to?
I had to hunt one of them down when I was up in NorCal, but then in LA I went to Golden Apple Comics.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that
Melrose.
was open yet.
Cool store, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool little store.
I used to work right above it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I did a horrible job.
That's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's a nice little comic store, but I went and picked up Amazing Spider-Man number 79 and 80 because they are written with my colleague, written by my colleague Cody Ziegler, who's the co-host
Amazing.
on X-Ray Vision. And so yeah, he got to write a couple Spider-Man comics. He's got more stuff coming up, but obviously wanted to go and support him. And they're really fun. Like my hesitation with comics is always I'm gonna jump in and not know what the hell's going on. But the great thing about individual trade issues is up in the very front. They kind of give you a quick recap of what's happening. And so at this point, it's actually Ben Reilly is back as Spider-Man because Peter Parker's in a coma. But it's like a fun story kind of him getting up to shenanigans. Kraven the Hunter is in there. So it's Kraven who says to Spider-Man kind of the same thing that Orion says to Flash in our episodes of like, you approach very serious work with such levity. It's a good line. Obviously I'm biased, but like they're really well written and like the art is fantastic and they're super, super fun. So go check out those comics and support a really fantastic dude who's a great writer as well. So yeah, and he's got more stuff coming up and I'll continue to plug the stuff as they come out. But I know he's working on there's like a What If series where Miles Morales gets to be a bunch of different characters.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's working on one of those. So yeah, there's some good stuff. So but I'm like starting to like get back into picking up individual comics. I haven't read it yet, but I also picked up the Superman Son of Kal-El number 5, where Superman, Jonathan Kent Superman comes out as bisexual. So I like picked up the first 5 issues of that. I'm gonna read that at some point and keep going with that.
Nice.
So yeah, gotta go find gay shit.
Got it. Yeah.
Gotta go support my gay shit where I can.
It's out there now.
So gotta support my friends and support gay shit. So but yeah, those are my plugs this week.
Nice.
So yeah. But yeah, so that does it for us this week. We are actually going to give people a heads up with our schedule instead of making it up as we go.
Not a surprise.
But given that we only have a few episodes left, we decided like, hey, you know what? Let's not rush it. Let's finish things out after the new year. Plus, we have some potential guests lined up for some episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So we figure a way till after the holidays to have them come on board. So next week we're off.
Yes.
And then the following week we're going to do our last bonus episode, our final year in review.
Man. Yeah.
We basically wanted to wait a week so we could have both seen Spider-Man in time to talk about that.
Yes.
And then we'll be off through the holidays and we'll come back in the new year and finish out everything.
Yes. This is not senioritis.
No.
This is holidays.
This is holidays / strategy.
Yes.
So taking a little bit of time off here around the holidays, but you'll get one more year in review from us where I will have seen like less than 10 theatrical release movies.
And I will have a lot to talk about.
You have a lot to talk about. So it will be interesting. But until then, you can reach us at Timm Talk Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail.
Yes.
You can find me at Lordifer on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes. If you want to see my art, you can find that at Cameron.Dexter. If you want to see my face, you can find that at CamDexter_adventures. I'm back at Disneyland every weekend.
Every freaking weekend.
At least for December.
Yes. Gotta love that, Cameron. Love that you're keeping them going.
Yep.
They were really struggling this year, but thank God they've got you back.
I'm just trying to keep that small company afloat.
Yeah.
The small support small business.
Support local businesses.
Yeah.
Hey, technically,
it is local.
they're kind of a local business, so
Yeah.
it works. But thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye. Ba 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 ba.
Ba 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 na 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 na. Ba 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 na 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 na. Oh man, it just gets worse.
All right, I'm gonna go back to bed now.